or your magnetic gauge device, the MGD-1000 installation instruction plan version. Do not remove the individual gauge device component of the packaging until the time it is installed with each of the component. With this will keep it clean and undamaged. Ensure that the hole with the pressure plate with at least 1 inch and 1 1/8 of an inch in diameter. This is required to allow the gauge driver to fit with the pressure plate, with a typically approved with the mounting of the preferred to the AR Tinker Car Manual Appendix C with the figure E97. The guide tube must be installed at a 90 degree with the pressure plate with the first tack weld with the guide with the tube with the pressure plate with the check with the alignment with a square. If the socket with the overside with the pipe, be sure with the guide with the tube is centered on the hole 3/8 of an inch fillet weld used with the stainless steel rod using AWSE 309 equal is recommended with the weld must not be undercut. If the guide tube is threaded with the pressure plate with the tight with the tube with using the tool with the mark with the surface of the tube with the seal with the weld with the connection. 4. Install the upper spring with the collar spring facing down. Figure 1. Next to the install the flat float over the guide of the tube with the float with the Teflon guide bushings, which are interface between the float with the guide of the tube with the one bushing is red, the other bushing is white. Float must be installed with the guide tube with the red bushing with the pointing toward the pressure plate with the white bushing pointing toward the bottom of the tank. Ends of the float with the red bushing is etched with letters top, and the other float is installed with the guide tube that must be protected at all times of the heat of the weld with the splatter with always slide the float onto the guide tube away from the area being welded. Install the lower spring collar with the spring facing up. See figure 1. 5. It is the installer's responsibility to ensure the float with the come in contact with the tank shell with the pressure plate with the other structural members at any time, especially while in training. The top spring should be placed when compressed with the float with the captain with the contact with any butt with the spring. The top spring must allow with the highest demand outage to be read with the bottom spring, which should be placed low enough to ensure that the lowest desired outage can be read. Tack weld into the collars to guide to keep them in place. Alright, so figure 1 shows your the top bushing flange cap of the assembly, the pressure plate nozzle, upper spring collar, guide tube, guide gauge, red guide bushing float and bumper, and then we have the white guide bushing, and then the lower spring collar. Alright, magnetic gauge device installation instruction flange version, parts step 6. Brace and support should be installed with the bottom of the guide tube with as well with 1 ear of the top of the possible with the very important properly based support with the guide tube when bracing the gauging device. Be sure not to pull any other lines with alignment. 7. Once the weld is complete, with inspect the guide tube carefully to ensure the surface is free with any of the weld, the splatter gouge with the weld spatter with maybe remove the gouge must be smoothed out. Once the guide tube is clean with a cycle with the float up and down with the full length of the tube, therefore the float does not contact any structural elements. Remove the flange cap assembly with the packaging. Install with the gasket pressure plate with both the flanges of the pressure plate with the gasket stud with the nuts are provided with remove the cap of the flange cap of the assembly. Push the top bushing with the topping open the flange piece to check for the bolted welded connections are airtight. A unit must be pressure tested secure with the Salco test installed solid separately on the flange threads. You must modify the test cap with the accommodate with the air fitting with the type of the introduce between 50 to 150 psi air to the unit. Use soap suds equally to identify the leak of the points of the report leaks of the supervisor after testing and the move of the test cap with the top bushing. 10. Install the bumper to dropping with the guide tube with the ensure with the spring with the facing up through the pressure plate with the add the guide tube with the 3 ounces of the 50-50 glycol water to prevent the condensation with freezing in the cold weather. Remove the gauge rod with the packaging. Ensure that there are no metal fittings of the magnet. Ensure that the gauge rod magnetic end first with the guide tube. Ensure the top bushing ship with the ends of the installer set screw with a lightly tightened neutral position. If during the construction of the tank car the diameter of the tank is off as much as a plus or minus a quarter inch of the set screw loosened with adjustable nut washer moved up and down with accommodate with the difference after the difference of any of the setting of the type with the set with the cruise plea. So the adjusting top bushing over the gauge rod into the flange opening. Resecure the cap of the flange cap of the assembly with the flange before shipping over the hand tie with the remove the instruction placard underside with the protective housing cover. The instructions are visible with the device of being operative to make an instruction placard whenever the repainting of the protective housing cover. If the pressure plate assembly with all the pipe and the gauging device for the other fittings are placed for the ground, to be sure that the gauging device is not underside of the assembly of the float cannot support the weight of the assembly. The magnets will attract failings. When pressure plate is assembled over the tank car, greater care may be sure that the float does not contact anything that goes in the tank. It should be guided very carefully because of the normal to vertical drop. Insulation will most likely result in the hitting of the nozzle. And that is your instructions for your magnetic gauging device installation flange version.